After I finished recording, I discovered that different microphone was used during the recording. I listened to the recording, the audio is not as perfect as this one you're listening right now, but I can understand a couple of things and I decided to still publish the video because re-recording the same thing requires a lot of time and I just cannot do this. So I'm offering this with a little bit bad audio, but this is not gonna happen in the future anymore for other videos.
Hello everybody, my name is Zura and I am the Codeholic. Several months ago I started working on an open source project Yii2 E-Commerce website. I recorded several videos on that and totally this is 17 hours. I continue this project and in this video I'm gonna work on internalization, which is a crucial topic if you want your website to be multi-language. So the previous videos are basically about creating an e-commerce website as an MVP, the first two parts. The next part is to integrate Webpack inside our project. If you don't want to watch these previous videos, that's totally fine. You can go to the following repository and grab the following branch, I-18 start. So go on that branch and start working with me on that branch. So I'm gonna actually start everything from this branch, and if you just don't want the previous videos, totally fine, you will understand everything. Source code is already provided right here. I'm gonna work on that, and then finally I'm gonna push everything on I-18 branch, as well as I'm gonna merge my changes on master branch so that you have the latest version on the master branch as well. So the project has nice readme right here, so every features like the installation and everything is right here. So I think you won't have any troubles about setting up the project. If you do have, just let me know in the comment section or just create an issue if you have any troubles on that. If at some point while watching this video you feel that that is useful for you, please pause the video, like the video and share it. If you're new to my channel, subscribe, and no further time spending, let's jump into the video. So here is the project demo, which has like the several products, add to cart functionality, checkout and so on. You can have a look at the first like few minutes, 2-3 minutes of the first video, and you will find demo right there. Okay, I'm gonna open my PHP store and start working on internalization. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is go into common config and configure the application language. So in the main PHP, we have the main configuration phase. If you are not familiar with the Yii2 configuration, I do have a separate video on that and you can check out it in the video description or find it on my YouTube channel page. So this is the configuration of Yii framework and we're going to specify right here the language. So the default language on which the application should render the page is NUS. So I'm going to change that and convert into, for example, DE, so which is German language. Okay, so I'm going to save that, go into browser and pay attention to this, showing 1 to 5 or 5 items. So and reload the page and look at this. So this was actually changed into German text. So the sign up login card, they are not actually changed, but this was changed. Also pay attention that right here previously we had $, but now we have XXX. So what is that? So actually based on the language code, framework detects the currency and it renders the price in that specific currency. So we can specify 2-letter language codes right here like DE or KA, which is actually a Georgian. So I'm going to reload the page and right here I see Georgian texts, but it's a good practice to specify right here languages in the following format: DE dash DE uppercase. Okay, in case of Georgian it will be KA dash GE. Okay, and when I do it like this and reload the page, I see right here euro. I don't see this XXX anymore. So that's actually good practice how you should specify languages when you actually specify from the configuration phase. And it's not, of course, good that if the price is this amount in dollars, it should be converted directly into euros. Actually, we should consider the currency exchange rate, of course, in a complex application. But at the moment, I'm going to skip that. And whenever the language is like German, it will just display euro right here. Or, of course, this can be also fixed. And let's say that we always display prices in dollar, no matter what's the application language. That can also be done from the formatter configuration. Okay, so besides the language, we have in the configuration phase also source language. And what's that? That's actually all in which language the texts are written at the moment in the application. So let's specify right here in US, because that's how I wrote all my texts in application. So the login, of course, is in English, sign up is in English, cart is in English, and every text I wrote in application is written in English. Okay, so the source language identifies in which language you have written or you are going to write your texts in application. Okay, that's perfect. So if my language is in US, in this case, whatever is the source language, whatever is written inside the application, it will be displayed just like that, showing 1 to 5 or 5 items. If I change that to something, in this case, eFramework will convert all source languages from NUS into DE and display it in German language. Okay, we can also change languages dynamically. So I'm going to comment these 2 lines and it shows default. And let's say that I only want to change language on specific action, not for the whole application. Okay, so when I go on the login page, let's say that I only want to change language right here. So if we go in the site controller in the front end, and find the login action, right here I'm going to specify E application language, which by default corresponds to NUS. I'm going to specify and set it to DE. Okay, save that and reload right here. I don't see any noticeable difference because this is all my texts and I haven't made them translatable. But if I don't type something in the username and click outside, so this is the default Yii2 framework text, and that is displayed in the German language. Okay, let's comment this once again and reload the page. Click it, click outside, and now username cannot be blank is English. If I uncomment this line and reload the page, then we have it in German. However, if I go on the sign up page and click on the first name and then outside, this is written in English. So I only make the application to have the German language on the login page. Okay, that is necessary because sometimes you don't have access on the configuration page on the application language, and you're going to change it dynamically later when user switches to another language. Okay, so this is the perfect case. So I'm going to actually remove this line right here, and I'm going to go back to configuration phase. Language, oops, I have a mistake. Language. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one thing. So let's actually open the search functionality, and I'm going to search for ET in the vendor folder. Let's go in the vendor. Okay, and let's search for like the verification code is incorrect. That's good. So that's actually something else. The verification code is incorrect. Okay, so that comes from the CAPTCHA validator. That's one of the example of the translatable text. So if you want to make your text translatable, you have to call ET method with some category and with the actual message which you would like to translate. Okay, all texts like the following one, first name cannot be blank. So if we can just select that and search in the vendor folder, we see right here not this one, but let's spend a little bit of time. I would like a different place. Okay, right here. So look at this. So this is a translatable text. Some attribute cannot be blank. That attribute, of course, is dynamically bound, like first name cannot be blank, last name cannot be blank, username cannot be blank, but the actual messages cannot be blank with some attribute, okay? That comes from the vendor, that comes from the required validator. And then later, in the E-framework core itself, there are written different translations for different languages. We can pick up the first one. I don't know which language actually this is. AF. I don't know which language is that. But right here we have an associative array of key value pairs, where key is the source language and the value is its corresponding translation on that specific language. So if you go in the DE folder, not DA, but DE, which is German, open right here and search for cannot be blank, then we see attributes dies darf nicht something. So that is the German message which is displayed when the username is, or username or first name or anything is not be cannot be blank. Okay, so that was the message which was displayed on the login page when we click outside. We still have this right here. Okay, probably I haven't saved the file. No, we have this in German. Of course, that's why we see that. Okay, perfect. So the format, what you need to remember is that the format of that file is an associative array where some key corresponds to some value. And inside the required validator or inside any other files, to make the text translatable, E-framework has written ET with some category and message. Okay. And all categories inside the vendor, inside the framework folder, has the category of E. But how to make my texts translatable? Okay, let's have a look at this. So I want to make translatable login page. So for this, I'm going to close all the vendor files. Let's go to the front end, views, layouts, main PHP. And we have login right here somewhere. I want to make this translatable. So I'm going to call ET method with some category. And I'm going to use app category in this case, which is very common in E-framework. Okay, so the category is app, message is login. And by that, I'm going to tell my E-framework to convert the login text into its corresponding German text, because I have German right here, for the app category. In this case, I won't see any difference because there is no translation. So we have to configure these translations. Let me change sign up as well. For app category, sign up. Okay, now how to do that? Again, we need to go to the common config main PHP. And right here we have components, and I'm going to configure I18 component, I18, which is a core component and is already pre-configured in some way in application. So if you want to see this, we need to go to vendor, eSoft, E2, and right here let's go in the web and open application. That's actually the web application, which extends from base application. I'm going to open that base application, and down below we should see core components. Right here. So these are core components pre-configured already, and we see I18 right here, which is an instance of I18. If you open that, we see that it has a couple of properties, couple of methods, and so on. Okay, and I'm going to configure translations property right now. So I18 has translations, and the translations is an associative array. We can have a look in the either official documentation or right here, read what this actually does. But I'm going to open official documentation because you should also know how to work with official docs. Okay, Yii2 E-18 and special topics internalization, that's the thing what we want. And right here, basically all the thing I'm explaining is written. So, but we do care about I18 class. So this is the class I want to open, and this has translations right here. When you click on the translations, you see all the texts in a nicer form than in the PHP store. So, and you can read that and understand how you can configure the translations, but I'm going to show this to you also. So in the translations, I'm going to specify the class. So class is basically a format in which we should save the translations. So we have three types of translation formats. So I'm going to search for this. One is PHP message source, which saves the translations in the PHP files. Second is get text message source, which saves in MO and PO files, which by the way I have not done in my applications. And the third one is DB message source, which uses a database table to store all the translation messages. Okay, in this video we're going to start with PHP message source and save the files in PHP files, save the translations in the PHP files. But later I'm going to show you also how to use DB message source to store your translations in the database table. Okay, so let's start with the PHP message source. Okay, I'm going to specify a class right here, and I'm going to also specify a couple of properties. So the PHP message source supports a couple of properties, like the base path, which is the base path for all translated messages, and that's default to app messages. In our case, we are using the so we can actually leave this as a default value, but we don't have app namespace, I think. So we would like to store the messages in the common messages. So I'm going to use, for base path, I'm going to use common/messages. Okay, that's the base path where I'm going to store all my translations. And I'm going to create that folder, by the way, which doesn't exist. So then we have different other properties right here. The file map, that's an interesting thing. So inside the file map, file map actually makes sense. Actually, I missed one thing. So inside the translations, first I'm going to specify the category. Okay, so I'm configuring a specific category at a time. So right here I'm specifying the app category. For app category, so this is the source for messages, this is the base path, and inside the file map we can specify for which category what should be the file. So I can specify for app category, the file name can be app PHP, which is very common, or I can make it application PHP. So that actually doesn't make sense if you're configuring one category, but you can configure multiple categories at a time, like using a wildcard notation. So we can have several subcategories as well. So for example, we specified in the layout category as an app login. But if we go in the front end views site login, and we specify right here, for example, please fill out the following fields to login. Okay, I can make this translatable, echo Yii2 with app/login. So this is a subcategory, and I'm going to specify right here this text with the app login. And right here in the common config, I'm configuring all the categories which start with app. And I can specify right here for app, the category, the file name should be app PHP, but for app/login, the category can be login PHP. And why should I do that? So without doing this thing actually, so it will look up for files. Let me show this to you in the common messages. So in the common messages, actually, we should create a folder for the language. So in this case, I want to translate it into German. So I'm going to create DE language. And right here, I'm going to create app PHP, which should be an associative array. And for login, I'm going to specify its corresponding German word, which I'm going to look up in the Google Translate because I don't know German. sign up its corresponding word as well. And the point is that let's go to the front-end login, and this is another source message which I would like to translate, but that comes from different category, okay, different subcategory, app login. So without specifying right here that for app login subcategory please use login PHP, it will look up for that file without this line basically, okay. It will look up the file inside the app folder / login PHP, okay. So this is where it will search for that file. But I would like that login PHP to be next to the app PHP, okay, and that's why I'm going to move this into DE folder, and I'm going to configure it like this. Okay, now let's have a look in the browser, or let's first make the text translatable. So translate google.com login. I'm going to translate it into German right here. Okay, so this is the login. Let's go in the app PHP and specify it right here. Let's type sign up and copy and put this right here. Okay, now let's have a look. Reload the page and we see the texts translated perfectly. Okay, however, if I want to translate that, I'm going to look up for its corresponding value and just grab it and go to the login PHP and return an associative array from here and put this right here. So this is the key. Let's have a look. So we need to go to the login and we see right here the corresponding word. That comes already from the login PHP. So we have configured subcategories as well. However, if you don't have very large application, it's not like maybe best way to do. So I generally, if application is not very large, I just have it single category and have all my translations right there, because like there are few hundreds, like 200-300 of source messages general in my application, so that should actually work. However, if I just remove that subcategory login from here and reload the page, I see it in English, because in this case for app category the corresponding file is app PHP, and inside the app PHP we don't have translation for that text. So I'm going to actually take out this and move it in the app PHP and remove the login PHP. I don't need this anymore, and go to the right here in the config phase and just comment or completely remove that. I don't want. So by default it looks up for the file name with the category name. So if I just remove that, that should also work, because it's going to look up for the app PHP for app category in the language folder, and the language is DE. So I save that, I reload the page, and I see all the things properly translated. Okay, let's talk about the message formatting. Okay, so I'm going to go in the layout right here, and let's say that I want to output like welcome something, or when the user sign ups right here we have the display name, and let's just write welcome the display name. Okay, so I'm going to use ET for that and specify the app category, and right here I'm going to write welcome and then the name. Okay, and so this is the actual translation, but we have to specify the variables for that placeholders. Okay, so right here I'm going to specify an associative array where name corresponds to the display name. So I save that, and I need to log in order to be able to just have a look. So what's the password? I don't remember. Okay, I was able to log in, and right here I see welcome Zura the Codeholic. Okay, so in this case display name is Zura the Codeholic. That's why it displays it like that. But it displays in English. That's because we don't have translation for this message for app category. So it already makes sense step by step. So let's go to the app PHP, and I'm gonna add this translation, welcome, name, and that should be willkommen, space right here, and the placeholder name should be the exact same. I save that, I reload the application, and I see right here German texts. Okay, in the source messages, I can specify these placeholders with the indexes as well. So right here I can put 0, and in this case I can specify a normal array, not an associative array, and on 0 index this will be the placeholder. I save that and I reload the application, and I see the placeholder works. However, I don't see German text anymore. That's because the source message was changed. Source message now is this. I go in the app PHP, change that into 0, and in this case it should work. Okay, if you have only one placeholder to replace, you can even skip the array brackets and just specify that value directly, and it's going to work in the same way. So again, documentation is a very good friend of you, so check out all these things in documentation. It's a very well written. So generally one video cannot give you everything about the project. You need to read, you need to experiment on your own, you need to work on your own. Okay, of course we have possibilities to specify several arguments just like that, or several named placeholders. This is called normal unnamed placeholder, positional placeholder. This is called named placeholder. Okay, let's talk about parameter formatting. So this basically gives you possibility to format your given value in certain way. In this case, we give the price right here to format, and we specify to format in the number and currency. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste these and go in the layouts, and let's put this in the wrap at the very top. Let's put this inside PHP tags. So, and save that and reload the page, and I don't see this because the header is on over that, but right here look at this. So we see that price is $100, and that's formatted as a number and as a currency as well. Okay, so we do have different ways of formatting. I generally don't use this type of way of doing things. I prefer to use eApp a formatter for that, but that's actually relatively new one, which was added like recently in Yii2 framework. So yeah, I think it's a very good way to format an easy way. In this case, the source message will be the whole thing, which is written inside this single quotation. So that's going to be the source message. And when you're formatting, when you're translating that, you should have this one in the value as well. So let me show you what I mean. So if I go in the app PHP and specify this right here as a source message, and then you have to specify this whole placeholder, positional placeholder right here, and that's going to be price German, or let's just have a look in the price. Okay, so look at this. And in this case, no, everything actually looks good. So this is just the NBSP. All right, so please have a look at this message parameter formatting, because there are tons of information how to format numbers, specify the formatting like precision, the number of digits after the comma, and so on. Date formatting, time formatting, some spell out, even conditional formatting. Down below we have this. So if something equals that, then use the following message, otherwise use that one. And that kind of formatting is also used in the core messages as well. So yeah, please have a look at that. Now I'm going to talk about how to specify the default source message. So in case there was no translation found, then it's going to use the default source message. For this, we're going to go in the config phase again, And we do have right here like app and asterisk, so app categories and everything subcategory of the app. But I'm going to specify in asterisk right here, and then the PHP message source. Okay, oops, PHP message source, this one. Okay, and the base path, let's specify the base path as well. And now, if I go in the login again and change that into a login, okay? So that's a different category. That is not app category, that is not subcategory of app. So if I do it like this and save and reload the page, and let's actually go to the login page. Okay. Right here, I don't see anything. Of course, it's not translated because it's the translation exists in the app PHP, but it's going to look up login PHP. Okay, and if we open the debug, we should see an error right here, which basically points out that the message file for category login does not exist. Okay, that is how it works. If I don't specify this right here, we're going to get an error. Okay, unable to locate message source for category login. So we should basically have this as a default translation in case someone writes app or mistakenly just writes it with a single app. So it's going to break our application if you don't have this default source message. However, if we do have this default source message, then we're going to see an error down below, and these errors can be configured to be sent on our email address or Slack channel, so that we know there is a problem immediately before even user notices that, and we do take care of these later. Okay, in this case I'm going to go back to app again, but I'm going to leave that default because it's a good practice to have it right here. Okay, sometimes we do want to translate the messages which is provided by eFramework. Okay, like username or attribute cannot be blank. In this case, we have to specify right here the E category. Okay, so I'm going to configure my E category, and that's going to be also PHP source message at the moment, and the base path should be common messages. Let's specify inside the E folder. Okay, so now I save and reload. And right here I see an error, and the error says message file for category E doesn't exist. Common messages E, DE, DEE, PHP. Okay, we have to create that folder right here, E folder. Then inside the E folder, we have to create the language, and inside the language, we have to create category, which is E in our case. And now the file exists. We should not see this error, but the translations won't work. Like username cannot be blank, this is right here. It's not German. Again, if I go and uncomment or comment this line, click inside, click outside, this is German, okay? Because that uses the core translation. But now it uses our translation file, and we don't have translation right here for the English text, so this is how it works. However, I can configure this. So the key probably is attribute cannot be blank, something like this. Okay, with dot right here, and I'm gonna correspond it to attribute something. Okay, this is German translation. Save and reload, click inside, click outside. Okay, it doesn't work, probably I made a mistake. Let's look up in the core. Attribute cannot be blank, so let's actually grab this and again black. Okay, yes, that's my mistake, it should be blank. Okay, reload the page, and now we see username something. So that's my German corresponding translation of that. If I do want to configure the default translations, I do have possibility for that. This is one of the reasons I love E-Framework, because I do have possibility to configure everything which I don't like. Okay, I had an experience with other frameworks, and sometimes I'm restricted to do certain things, but in Framework, there's nothing basically I have not configured when I needed that. And that's absolutely crucial for building huge applications. Okay, we don't actually need that. I'm going to comment this line. I don't need that. The default messages for me at the moment are okay. So I'm going to remove that and go with the default messages, with the default texts. Okay. One important thing is that when you are translating your application, sometimes you need to be notified, or you need to see a message which is not yet translated in a different way. Okay, and that is the way to handle all missing translations. So first of all, let me go and translate all my texts. So there are tons of texts. I'm going to pause the recording, do all of them, and then come back. So in the cart item, in the all models, basically we do have attribute labels right here, and these labels needs to be translatable in all classes. We do have a lot of views, and I'm going to go through all of the PHP files and make them translatable. Basically put them in the ET method with app category. This is what I'm going to do for all my translations, and I'm gonna be back soon. But before I do this, let me commit and push all these things. So I don't want the price inside my application. Remove that. The config phase looks good. The language, I'm gonna comment this because my default language I would like to be in English, and later basically I'm gonna also implement language switch. In the layouts we don't need that price, not this one. These are okay. Okay. Add internalization support. Okay, so here I went through all my files and made simply the messages translatable, wrap them inside ET method with app category, and it's a good practice when you write an application, always write with ET method. I didn't write that when I was working, because I wanted to create a dedicated video for internalization and just convert them later. But in general, when I write my applications, I use ET method always, because if you just don't enable internalization, then this doesn't hurt. So it's just there, and it uses the default text, what is specified in the message right here. But later, if you need to make the website multilingual, in this case, you don't have to go through all files and make them translatable. So it's like a little bit of extra work while you're doing, but a lot of time saving later if you want to make the application multilingual. Also, when you're generating modules using GII, you do have possibility to tick right there checkbox to generate the attribute labels with the ET, just like I have right here. Okay, so now I'm going to do the following. So I have all my texts translatable, and let's say I want to go through my website, have a look my website, and start translating the website on a German language. Okay, but I don't know which one is translated. Maybe I don't understand which one is translated and which one is not translated. How do I do that? I can configure from the config phase right here. I can configure an event on missing translation. So whenever the translation doesn't exist, it will call my own function. So on missing missing translation, it's going to call the following function. Okay, in the function argument, we got a missing translation event, and then I can do a couple of things right here. So this event has access on message, which is missing translation on message. It has access on category as well, and it has access on language as well. So these three combinations give me a unique message for language, category, and message. And I can assign these all things into translated message. So translated message equals, and I can wrap it. So basically I can put some weird characters right here, the square brackets, for example, then the message, then I can put right here dash, then the category, and then again dash, and then the language, and finally I'm gonna close my square brackets. So, and this will display my translated messages like that. So I'm gonna save that and reload the page. And did I do everything correct? Okay, so let's I should say this. Let's go to the common main. The language is DE, so that should display the text. Add to cart, for example. Add to cart should have that square brackets right there. So let me dump something if this method is called on missing translation. That event looks good. Wait. No, that should not be on the translations levels. So that should be for each category game. So I should specify this for each category. So right here. Okay, so let's do like this, reload the page, and look at this. So now I see that add to cart, which is app category and DE language, and that is not translatable. And looking at this, I already know that I should make it translatable. So I can copy this add to cart text, or just type, go in the common messages app, and I'm going to type right here, add to cart corresponds to German add to cart. Reload the page, and now I see German right here. This is already translated. Okay, other things are not translated. This cart, for example, by the way, if we go in the content, views, layouts, main PHP, where is that cart written? Right here. Yeah, I forgot to make it translatable as well. So ET up cart. Okay, save that and reload, and look at this. So this is not translated. I can go in my app PHP and make it translatable as well. If I go in the login page, all these things are not translatable. I can go with that and make it translatable. By the way, this was already translated, but I made a small change there. So I removed that colon. Okay, so that should be translated. Okay, but the other things, the rest of the things are not actually translated. The username is not translated, or the password is not translated, or these things are not translated. This is translated. This is translated, I think, from the core e-framework. So this is the way how you can handle missing translations and then take care of them. So later I'm gonna do also translations, default translations for all the source messages. By the way, I'm going to push everything, of course, on the master branch. And if you'd like to contribute, if you would like to provide the translations for German or any other languages, feel free to make a pull request on that. I would like to make this open source e-commerce application multilingual. As many languages will be there, as better it will be. So that's why if you want to contribute, that's totally fine. I will be glad to merge your pull requests. Okay, so now I would like to show you how you can actually grab all source messages, all messages which are written in the Yii2 method and save it in files or in the database so that you can go inside the file and translate them very quickly. That topic, by the way, is also very well explained in the documentation. Okay, and we can let me actually show this to you. But first, I'm going to comment all these things and just push it. Actually, I would like to make one improvement right here. I don't want this function to be like in the config level. I would like to make an array, and I'm going to create a component in the common components, and inside the components I'm going to create a class called translation event handler. The namespace will be app components, and create that, and I'm going to make a function, public function handle missing translations or translation. Let's format this, and I'm going to specify right here this class, translation event handler class, and the method name is handle missing translation. Let's save this and reload the page. Oops, we have an error. Actually, that should be class. That should be string, I think. App components, translation event handler. Let's have a look. In the app components, we have the namespace. Oops, because we are specifying right here a function of the class, not an instance. It should be static, I think. And no missing translation. Yeah, let's have a look. Type error with message call user func. Callback must be a valid callback class. App components translation event handler not found. Why it is not found? Ah, my mistake. That should be common components. Common components, right. So here we have it, and the missing translations are displayed properly. So I would like to have this in a separate file because that has possibility to do a couple of other methods right here. And yeah, I just want to maybe making a message on the Slack that there is a missing translation on the website and so on. So definitely it's good to have in a separate class. Okay, now let's see how we can grab all the source messages written in source files and save them in a PHP files or in a database and just use them later, translate them. Okay, so I'm going to use PHP message controller for that. And that message controller has a couple of actions right here. One of them is config template. So it's going to create a configuration file based on predefined template, and I'm going to save that in the following area: common messages / config php. So as soon as I hit enter on that, it will generate that config php file right here, and let's observe that. What's that? Let's start with the at the top. So right here we have the source path. That's basically the folder inside which the controller, the application should look for the source files, look for the Yii2 messages. Okay, in our case, that's not one directory back, that's actually two directory back, because the root, the project root, is the place which should be the place inside which we should search the translation messages. Okay, so let's go to directory back. In the languages, if we want to have multiple languages in our application, we can specify them right here. So I'm going to specify DE, and I'm going to specify also Georgian. Okay, So the next thing is the translator, which is the method which should be used for searching of source messages, and by default this is ET, and I'm going to leave it like that. Sort false, that's whether the source messages should be sorted or not. And why not? Let's actually change this into true. Let's sort them by the key. Remove unused, that's good thing. So sometimes when we already have messages written right here in the app PHP, let's say that we don't have login text inside the application anymore. So it will have a look right here and remove this login from here so that we don't have unnecessary translations in the file. Okay, but in this case we set this into false. Mark unused, this will mark the unused message with these double @ symbols. Wrap it and close it. Okay, that's good. The source files where it should search for, that's asterisk PHP, so it should only search for PHP files except the following folders. Okay, it should not look for inside the messages, obviously, right here. The format, so the format, we do have 3 format options as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. One is PHP source messages, second is MORO messages, and the third one is DB format. Okay, so in this case, MOPO format. In this case, we're going to specify PHP first, and this is the message path. The current directory is the message path, this one. Override true, by default it will override the merged source messages, and the rest of the things I'm going to leave as it is, and I'm going to run. Actually, before I run, I can actually generate the same file with specifying a couple of options right here. Okay, let's actually do like this. So message config, I'm going to specify -- languages to be DEDE, comma KAGE. Okay, and message path where I'm gonna like put them will be messages. Okay, and I have to specify the config name, common messages config PHP. Okay, I'm going to hit enter on that. The config file was created. Click on that and look at this. So we have the languages. So the previous one was a template with a lot of comments right there. We do have colors and interactive and a couple of other options right here, but that uses the format is PHP, and we do have the database configuration as well. So if you just want to generate the file with this type of parameters, you can actually do that. But I like the comments area and everything well explained, so I'm going to go back to previous generation, and this is how I'm going to have it. I'm going to specify right here DEDE and KAGE, and this should be to directory back. Okay, save that. Let's change the sort into true as well. And now I'm going to execute PHP E message and specify the common messages config. Hit the enter. And let's wait a couple of seconds. So it's now looking for all the vendor and all the project files, trying to extract the ET messages from there and save it in a PHP files. It will take several seconds, and then finally we're going to have a result. Okay, so it's finished, and let's have a look in the messages. It created the KAGE folder, and we see right here up and E, and inside the D we see also up and E. If you open up, we see right here, let's go up to this, we see right here sorted all the source messages we do have right there. Add to cart, which is German by the way, and silly, that's silly, but this is how I wrote there. And all the source messages are right here in a sorted order. In ePHP we do have the eFramework source messages grabbed and extracted if you want to just customize them as well. And we do have the same thing in the KAGE folder. However, we don't have any translations for Georgian yet, and we do have this ePHP right here as well. Okay, so if you want to see all supported actions of message, we can specify PHP e help and specify message slash config PHP or message slash config and not config PHP. And right here we do have all the options, the controller support, like languages, whether it should be interactive, mark unused. So basically when we are about to generate with the following way, we can specify right here all the options, like what should be the translator, what should be the source path, what should be the source message table, whether sort be true or not, and so on. So we can specify all these things, but I think it's easier to generate the file and then make changes in the PHP file in this specific case. Okay, so now let's see one other thing, and that's how to use DB message source. So how to have our translations in the database. So let's go to the official documentation right here, and I'm going to search for DB message source, or DB source message, how it's called, DB message source right here. Click on that. And first of all, we need to run the following migration, which will create two tables in the database. Okay, so I'm going to grab that and run that migration in the terminal. Paste this right here and hit enter. Actually, we should run it with PHP E migrate. Hit enter on that. Let's paste this right here and type PHP E migrate, hit enter, and one migration is to be applied. I'm going to type yes. And it created these two tables, source message and message. And let's have a look in the database, synchronize message and source message. So the source message contains category and message and ID. However, the message contains the ID, language, and its corresponding translation. Okay, now we need to go in the config phase and change the PHP message source into DB message source. We don't need to specify this base path in this case. It's going to use the two tables we just created to make the messages translatable. And we know that we translated login and sign up, which are translated right here. But if I reload the page, they are not translatable because now translations are searched for in the database. So if I go and open the source message and make an insertion right here, plus category should be up, message is login, hit enter on that, then open the message and language for DEDE for ID1, the translation should be whatever is the German login, okay, German login. Save that and reload, and right here we see this German login. Okay, so this is how you should make it translatable. I'm going to actually delete this because I'm going to have it finally in the PHP files, but I'm going to show you also the following thing. So let's open that config PHP from the messages, and I'm going to switch to the format. I'm going to switch the format. Let's comment this format and uncomment for DB. So we uncomment the format DB, and we have this DB as well, and the default source message table and the message table is this, so they are fine to be there. So, and let's actually execute PHP E message again. In this case, it should save the values in the database. Let's wait a couple of seconds and have a look. Okay, inserting new messages, saved, updating obsoleted messages, nothing obsoleted, skipped. So let's go in the database level, source messages, and we do have right here all the source messages. Okay, and if we go in the messages, we do have translations for Georgian, and for German. The translations are empty because this is actually what we need to do, what we need to translate. Okay, so this is basically how that works, and later, of course, we can create in the admin, in the backend side of the application, we can create the interface from which we can translate these messages, which might be better, but in this case I'm going to have all my translations in the source message, in the PHP message source, in the PHP files, so that I can commit and push them and have the application translatable. Of course, I cannot push the database in that case. Okay, so I would like to show you a few more things. One is how you can translate the module messages. That's actually, I'm going to show you from the documentation, official documentation itself. We haven't created actually any module at the moment, but we will create in the future, and I want you to have an idea how we can have the module translations. The modules can be actually reusable across multiple applications. So when you create a module class, you can register its translations. You can actually customize the translations array, put their new values, like modules. For example, if we have a module of users, so the category for the translations will be modules, users, and anything subcategory of modules users. So we specify PHP source message right here, which means that I want to have translations in the PHP files. The source language is in US. The base path will not be common messages, but it will be common modules, users, messages. Okay, this can be configurable. If you have your module in the vendor folder, installable using Composer, you can write here in the base path vendor, modules, users, messages. Okay, and you specify a file map in normal way, as we have already described. You can even create your own T method for translating, which accepts all the arguments of ET, and you can call ET behind, but for the subcategory of modules and users. Okay, so this is how you can do that. Of course, you can translate widget messages as well, and you can have a look in the documentation as well on that. So it's pretty much the same as translating module messages. The main idea is that you can put keys and values in the translations dynamically from the modules or widgets or from any place, and just configure the source language and base path and file map, and that's basically it. And you can create this T method for widgets as well and call that on widget. Okay, so one last thing I want to show you is translating the view files. So I'm gonna go back to PHP message source on that, and actually I'm gonna commit and push all these things and then show you how you can translate the view files. Okay, translating view files is very easy. So in the front-end views, for example, in the site folder, we have that login, and that login page is basically used when we go on the login page, right? But sometimes I don't want only one text to be translatable, but I would like the whole view to be translatable. So in this case, we just need to create a new login PHP inside the language folder. In this case, I'm going to create in the DE. I'm going to create login PHP, and that basically will be login on German. Okay, I save that, I reload that, and look at this. Okay, so this is the login page on German, and that's very handy because sometimes you don't want these ET methods, or sometimes you might want to completely change the layout of the page based on the language. So this doesn't give you that possibility. Using ET methods doesn't give you all sort of possibility you want. Sometimes you want that you to have a different additional files. If you are registering as a German user, or if you are viewing on a German language, maybe you would like to have certain different input fields for registration or login or etc. So you do have possibility to customize your views based on the language. If I create, of course, another language code like KAGE and login PHP inside that, it's going to create, it's going to be used for Georgian language as well. So I think that's all about the translations. I tried to make it as comprehensive and as perfect as possible. Let me know in the comment section if you like the video. Let me know also if you learned something new from that. Let me know also if you want to continue E2 framework videos like that. I'm going to continue that e-commerce application project. If you have seen this very first time, please give it a star. And if you would like to contribute, I would be happy on that. I don't have any contribution guidelines at the moment, but I'm going to create that later. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for your like 1 hour time on that. And yeah, just like and subscribe and share. Sharing basically is the most important thing at the moment, because I want to grow and I want many people to see my videos. So just share, and share my videos. Okay, thank you all, and see you in the next time.